Okay. Before we begin, let's take a few moments to be quiet together. Good evening, and welcome to everyone who's joining us on the internet. A Course in Miracles teaches that a miracle is a sudden shift of perception. And this is true. But not all miracles are sudden shifts of perception. Some of them are protracted, drawn out, because they're resisted. You know, when a baby is born, the delivery can be quick or protracted, depending upon whether there is resistance of one sort or another, or not. But the fact is that when the resistance is finally surpassed, the delivery is speedy. It is a now event. It is sudden. So, all miracles are sudden shifts of perception, but some of them seem to take longer because they're resisted. And they're laborious. Now, the fact is that on your globe, a miracle is happening. But it's not the sudden shift of perception kind of miracle. It's one that is being very tedious, very uncomfortable, very demanding. Now, the miracle that's happening is, believe it or not, unification. The miracle that is happening is a shift into global harmony, global integrity, global cooperation, global brotherhood. I know it doesn't look like that. And the reason it doesn't look like that is because this push for unity is being resisted because independence is not being released willingly. When a shift is coming to completion, the very last aspects of it involve the greatest resistances to whatever the miracle is. And so at this point, where unity is coming forward, whether it is wanted or not, all of the reasons for maintaining independence and the sense that worth only arises out of the best expression of independence, that everything is being done to avoid the release of independence and the allowing of the resumption of harmony, where what I'm going to call other orientation replaces self-orientation. You are watching events unfold in the United States. You're watching it from all over the world. To those living in the United States, it feels like it is happening in the United States. But it is happening in the world. It is being observed and felt in the world. And there are dynamics going on in Russia and in other countries, England, the European Union, the attempt to undo the graduation into unity by restoring independence is rearing its ugly head all over the globe. And it places a demand upon every individuality to become clear. To become clear about what truth is. And to disallow for what is untrue to take hold. It is becoming incumbent upon every individuality on your globe to become clear about what love is, and to disallow for what is unloving, what is abusive, what skirts the edges of kindness in the name of some other goal that doesn't involve caring. And everyone must, at this juncture, appear to take a position. It won't really be a matter of taking a position that is antagonistic toward another position. It's a matter of taking a position that is in harmony with the miracle that is unfolding so that your delivery into it as a conscious experience can be quicker, less laborious, and more miraculous. This is no longer a time to sit on the fence and play with, dishonesty, or to play with not really pushing for the truth because what's going on isn't really that destructive. A little bit of fooling around, fudging on what is true and what is not, it doesn't really make that big a difference. Well, I'm telling you something. When a miracle is occurring, and something like unity is emerging, evolving, we might say, becoming clearer, one can't fudge any longer. Because the more the miracle comes into view, the less tolerable fudging with love, fudging with truth, fudging with kindness can occur comfortably. The less wiggle room there is. But if you're going to take a position which is in harmony with a miracle that is unfolding that not everyone wants, well, that is going to put you at odds for a time with many. How can you call that a miracle? What's miraculous about that? Well, fortunately, nothing is miraculous about that. What's miraculous is the miracle that is occurring, that is calling upon everyone to change, to reevaluate their position on this, that, and the other thing. So that after looking at it squarely, it can be seen whether it's in harmony with the miracle that is coming forth or not. So that if it is not, it can be consciously abandoned and replaced by behavior that embodies truth and love and brotherhood. Why? So that by becoming synchronized, we'll say, with the movement called a miracle, called the miracle, the miracle might precipitously manifest as a sudden shift of perception that puts everything into a new perspective. Now, one can be careless and look without listening for divine truth and say, hey, it's just a planet with these organisms called human beings on it, and They can explore any way they want to live. They can explore any different way they want to live. And, hey, that broadens the spectrum of their experience, and therefore the quality of their mind and their behavior. But you know what? The breaking down of unity and the re-establishment of independence, hey, there's nothing new about that. It's been tried over and over and over in thousands of different ways. And you know what? At the bottom line, the movement of the miraculous has occurred, and the extreme practice of independence has yielded to what love produces, which is better harmony, better cooperation, a valuing of relating according to a fundamental principle, we'll say, called the Golden Rule. Something present, in one way or another, in every religion. And as a result, more and more unity, and the valuing of what contributes to unity has emerged. The miraculous has been happening. But it hasn't come to completion. It hasn't come to the point where mankind, on a large scale, is remembering its divinity. That each one is not an organism arising out of evolution, but rather the ever-present manifestation of, or presencing of, a first cause, God, divine love, divine principle, truth, soul, mind, spirit. The divorce that was gotten from our Father, in which the memory of the divinity of individuality was lost, is being restored, because an illusion cannot stand forever. And the experiment, the grand experiment, which has been called the fall of man, the grand experiment at independence, is failing. It's failing because enlightenment is happening. Because the restoration of the conscious experience of the Christhood of each of you and the Christhood of each other is unavoidably replacing the ignorance that has prevailed, because the choice to ignore has been practiced. What is happening right now is the expression of the last vestiges of the ethic of independence, struggling to not let it go, struggling to not let it disappear from human experience, which means to not disappear from your globe, because it's the ego. And the ego is believed to be an essential and ultimately important aspect of conscious individuality. And if it is abandoned, worth is replaced by worthlessness. And who wants that? That would be hell. But I'm telling you, hell is the loss of the memory of who you are and who your brothers and sisters are, and your insistence upon behaving as what you believe you are. If you are bothered by what you see going on your globe, and if you seem to experience no relief from it, if existence, for whatever reason, seems to be losing purpose, and faithlessness is taking over, it is necessary for me and for all of the brotherhood who are awake to convey to you that what you believe is happening is not what is happening. Disintegration of society is not happening on your globe. The valuing of everything that is not nurturing to brotherhood is not what is happening. What is happening is the emerging of unity, brotherhood, with such absoluteness that the ego sense of self is feeling truly threatened. And this is good news. The way to not be engulfed in fear and hopelessness is to stop relying upon your own independent thinking and what you have been educated to believe, and to instead insist upon listening for what I will reveal to you in the quietness of your own mind, what the Holy Spirit will reveal to you in the quietness of your own mind, so that you might feel, so that you might have an experience of peace because of clarity that wasn't available to you when your attention was scattered out there on all of the circumstances that are happening and the alarm that everyone is experiencing. The independence that everyone opted for in their divorce from the father was a choice to be able to think your own thoughts, to make up definitions for everything yourself, and then to live in this fantasy. Because you could do it. I mean, after all, the Father still continued to be everything. Nothing went anywhere when you decided to redefine everything yourself and believe your own thoughts. And so you could say, wow, I've decided that this tree evolved through physical processes. You know, out of the physicalness of this planet and out of the physicalness of this universe, which, just happens to be here. And you know what? It came from a big bang. It would have had to. Because it's here. And how else could you explain it? Except that suddenly everything was. And it was because that's the way physicalness is. Well, one can walk around in the kingdom of heaven and call it anything they want and believe it's anything they want to believe it is. But all the time, they, as a real, or you, as a real son or daughter of God, is walking around in the real kingdom of heaven, unconscious of it, oblivious to it. And in that state of mind, there is ever-present guilt and ever-present fear, because you are the son or daughter of God, a Christed one. And you can't ignore that or constantly affirm that you are not that by claiming to be a mortal, a physical human being. That assertion brings with it an unavoidable awareness that it's not the truth. And the awareness that it's not the truth is the inner demand calling you to ask then, what is truth? Now, at this last stage of the illusion of independence, you are seeing, and many of you are even experiencing, participating in, the resistance. Wholeheartedly and genuinely, you think, fighting for the independence that you feel is a God-given right, which if you abandon will constitute the loss of meaning. Now, what I must reiterate is that this attempt to reverse the miracle of oneness emerging as the true conscious experience of being calls for every single one of you to align yourself with it, with firmness, with commitment, with an unwillingness to be indefinite, wishy-washy, flexible in that you're forever not sure whether truth is true or not. Never sure whether you have to be absolutely loving or not. Whether there are occasions when it's appropriate to lie. If there are occasions where it's appropriate to withhold caring. Of course, for the benefit of the one that you're called upon to care for. I mean, after all, the argument is that caring for them may weaken them. They need to stand on their own 2 feet if they want to feel their integrity. The justifications for withholding love, for being indefinite, for being wishy-washy, for endlessly sitting on the fence, the justifications are infinite. And they're just distractions and delays from, I'm going to say, quote, getting with the program, unquote. Meaning, getting into alignment with the miracle that is happening. The sudden shift of perception that should be sudden and not drawn out. When the last little bit of resistance is released, the light bulb will go on. The aha will happen. And at that moment it will be sudden. What I am pointing out is that contrary to what it appears is happening, there is a miracle happening that not only calls for, but is requiring cooperation with it, which is requiring that you yield to it. Because it's your holiness and the holiness of all mankind and the kingdom of heavenness of what you call the world, the material world and universe. It's the coming forth of the clear experience of this. That no one has the choice to forever resist. And the end of the capacity to resist it is upon us, is upon you. Now, you know what? You don't have to stand up and rebel against and get into a spiritual conflict. All you have to do is to stop being resistant yourself. All you have to do is to be willing to stand in the face of what is happening and look at it. Be with it, joined with me, or joined with the Holy Spirit. To look at it with us, instead of with the mutual agreements that you brought into play when you joined with a brother or sister to define the world as your decree of divorce from your father. The leaven that leavens the whole lump without force is every single individual daring to practice the holy instant, caring enough to practice only the holy instant, where you abandon your devotion to your own best thinking, your own best concepts, and you say, nothing I see means anything, but everything that is revealed to me in the absence of my thinking means everything. That is where the meaning is. That is how the meaning is accessed. And there is no attempt in that to overthrow a brother or a sister, or an education or a theory, or get into a fight with your fellow man. The holy instant is the way you skip the traces, is the way you get off the track of your habits and make it possible to observe the movement of God called creation, which looks like the world and universe and you, with eyes innocent of previous definitions, previous concepts, previous habits. You see? This is good news. But it is going to require diligence. You are habituated to the patterns of your own thinking. And so you see what you expect to see and miss what is really there. And so you have to devalue your habituated thinking. And you have to bring curiosity into play. You have to look at this material world and universe that you have defined that way and desire to see. Become curious to see, as I have said before, the more of what God is being there than what you think is there. with a complete willingness to abandon whatever you thought. And I will give you a little hint. When you ask to see the more of what God is being right there in front of you, it is not so that you can have a new definition, a new way to think about it, because that will simply move you back into memory. The Father has revealed the divinity of the tree. Yes, wow, all trees are divine. I grasp this, I experience this, and now this is the way I'm forever going to think about them, and I am going to get back into my new thinking so that it can become new, habituated thinking. You see, that's not what it's about. What it's about is being in the absence of, or the silence of mind, where the movement of creation registers with you, and in the registering is defined to 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 you ad infinitum, because you're constantly standing at the threshold of the unknown with innocent eyes, an innocent mind, because you've let yourself into the flow of the movement of creation with the Father's perspective. And as you do this, you will find yourself at one with your brothers and sisters who are doing the same thing and experiencing you from the threshold of the movement of creation that is looking like you at that moment, at that moment, at that moment, at that moment, ad infinitum. Everyone is standing at the threshold of the miracle. Don't misunderstand the apparent conflict. Understand that the conflict represents the resistance to what the miracle ultimately means, and the attempt to hold on to the familiar and the secure. Prison that you have created for yourselves. And recognize the fact that you will have to take a new position. The old position has been a devotion to your ego beliefs, or let us say it has been a devotion to your beliefs, your mutual agreements, which are what constitute the ego. And you will have to abandon that position in order to take up the new position of standing at the threshold of the unknown, standing at the threshold of the spark of creation that infinitely occurs as reality to be experienced in its entirety now, 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 ad infinitum. you will not be able to say, "Oh, I'm going to sit back and watch the miracle happen." it's not going to happen out there. It's going to happen where the fall happened, which was a decision made in the withinness of you to be the determiner of the meaning of everything, and to devote yourself to those definitions as an affirmation of you existing in your own right. The miracle will be you, every one of us, coming into alignment with who and what we are, the sons and daughters of the manifestation of the creatures of creation, the evidence of the movement of God. Choosing for the voice for truth instead of the voice that has been given to your imagination is the threshold of the precipitous, sudden shift of perception that constitutes what I will call the last miracle. Because the voyage home will be over. The coming back into your right mind will be over. You will be in it. This miracle, which is occurring, and which is involving absolutely every single son and daughter of God. Well, it's something every single son or daughter of God is going to have to yield to. Therefore, it is something that every single son or daughter of God is yielding to, willingly or with resistance. Be willing to be clear. Be willing to take a position that reflects the Father's will instead of human will. And do not allow the attempt to reinforce and reestablish human will. Do not cooperate with that. Else you will be completely resisting the miracle that is irresistible, or you will be slowing the miracle down for yourself by bringing resistance to it. I'm going to put it this way. The hardest part of the miracle is going to be letting go of the resistance to unity, to oneness, to unequivocal brotherhood. And willingly abandoning anything that stands in the way of it. The reason is that in spite of the suffering that is experienced, the familiarity with independence is humongous. It is ancient, we could say. And it has the support of your ancestors, you could say. And it has the support, in many ways, of society itself, because society is reflecting the mutual agreements made by those practicing independent thinking. And therefore creating environments which are not divinely inspired, not arising out of the wholeness and holiness of the Father's perspective, which is the birthright, the inherent birthright of every single son or daughter of God. It's the task at hand, though. And so, in finishing, I must point out that although abandoning resistance may seem impossible to do, the fact that this miracle is happening means that all of the support needed for you to shift your way of being is present for you on your behalf to support you if you're willing to say, "Thy will, not mine, be done." So say it. Say it daily. Say it hourly. Remind yourself that there is a will other than your personal ego will that you can lean into and which stands in support of your transformation, because the miracle is you coming back into your right mind, which is being promoted by your right mind, which never left you, but which you have ignored. I love you very much. And I look forward to being with you next time.